So with game 2 comes a lot of tension for one of these players. Being a game up does give you some confidence that you're in a nice spot. It also means that you can sit there and potentially do something a bit risky. But we'll discuss those sort of options after we've introduced the two players. Spawning in the top left hand position as the blue Terran player, it is kauP. And his opponent up in the top right, the red Terran player, it's GoOdy. kauP currently 1-0 up in this best of 3 after game 1, which was an extravaganza of a 30-minute TvT involving lots of tanks, a meching GoOdy, and a bio-tank composition from kauP. Overall though, kauP just showed that if you allow him to expand literally everywhere while you turtle, he's gonna have more stuff and just wear you down. And that's something that GoOdy has to be a little bit cautious of this game. Also a quick shout out to any of my German viewers. I do appreciate, I am absolutely butchering the pronunciation of kauP. I can't quite work out how to say it being English. It breaks my brain a little, and I do apologise. Please bear with me on it. Anyway, racks opening first is a variation from game 1. Game 1 we saw a gas first out of kauP. GoOdy this game, he's opening identical to his opponent. And the reason we're likely to see Reapers out of both of these two players is because of the map. Habitation Station is a relatively small map with 2 spawn positions, a decent amount of cliff area, and Reapers therefore are quite a good move to not only get scouting information, but also to try and deal a little bit of damage. Both of them, I suspect, will be relatively concerned about Banshee style openings, because if you build a starboard near the edge of your main, the rush distance to your opponent incredibly quick. GoOdy gonna lose that SCV that was walled in. It was gonna die, it's just what he could do for his trouble, and he managed to take 10 hit points off that Marine, so certainly doing a good job. Although, I would like to argue that getting a drill the size of an SCV's in your face repeatedly would do more than 10 HP worth of damage. kauP now is sitting in a good spot to expand. He's got his Marines down, adding in a reactor, so hasn't actually gone for the Reaper. Neither player have. Actually no, GoOdy has gone for the Reaper. Glad to see that I wasn't completely wrong. Going to be looking to apply a little bit of pressure here. A Marine, an SCV and a Reaper will be 2 Marines. And this could be a little bit frustrating for kauP. He's adding in the factory behind this. The reactor's going to get a switch over there. But up now comes this SCV. He's there to tank up the damage. One of the Marines getting very low, the other one dying, and the Reaper continuing on with some good pressure. No good putting up the supply depots against the Reaper. He can just bounce up the cliff, but it does zone out the Marines. Although for some reason kauP allowing GoOdy in. He's just like, you know what, come in mate, it's fine, get into my main, because I got Marines coming out, and you're not going to like that. Using the SCVs just to bully away the remaining forces of GoOdy. But GoOdy added a nice little bump into the production of that factory, delaying kauP's tech. Meanwhile, on GoOdy's side, he's got his natural base firmly being produced, and while he is a little behind in the tech timings regardless, he's got the power of knowing that, hey, I was the first aggressor, and I've knocked my opponent out of what they were trying to do, whereas everything I've been trying to do has gone perfectly. This Reaper being very irritating, actually getting a couple of these SCVs fairly low. And so the Marines being forced back will end that Reaper's life. But GoOdy has done a nice bit of work here, managing to kill off 4 workers in exchange for 2 and that Reaper and a Marine. And has given himself the safety back home of knowing that his opponent isn't doing anything too terrifying. Got the Hellions now coming through, and the Medevac, and this is a very common build we're seeing from kauP, which GoOdy has had full vision of, and therefore should be appropriately defended against. The Marine's going to drop up into the main base, whereas the Hellions going to aim to run up into the natural, just trying to split the early defensive forces of GoOdy in 2 places at once, and prevent him from being able to adequately defend it. But because GoOdy's seen this coming, there's a bunker at the front which will easily be able to stop those Hellions. It's actually just going to be the drop in the main that may be a bit more threatening. The unit's now across. GoOdy following up his early Reaper, Marine, SCV pressure with Cloak, Banshee. It's a nice option and something that kauP won't know about, but is going to see as soon as he moves up with this medevac. So instantly getting the confirmation that's coming, knows Cloak's being researched because the tech lab is glowing, is actually going to try and shut it down. Marines from GoOdy on their way up, just going to be pulled away from the safety of the natural. And kauP really committing to this, using the medevac to bring the Hellions into the main base to continue on with the pressure. The tech lab goes down, cancelling Cloak, but the Banshee was still able to get out. This means that the pressure, the drop, is going to get completely cleaned up over time. But can kauP do any more damage before that dies? He's attempting to. Missile turrets positioned beautifully. Gonna force this medevac away though, otherwise the Hellions would be guaranteed in their fate of death. kauP back home, switching over his starport onto the tech lab. May look to get a Raven out of his own just to make sure that he's got mobile detection early on. He's already got the Viking. Sniping off the tech lab was a nice little pick off on his opponent though, and prevents the Cloak upgrade, buying him more than enough time to be defensive. But regardless, the Raven coming down is only going to be useful as the game goes on. kauP backing out now with this very low HP medevac, and we see both players within 26 resources of each other in terms of losses, and within a handful of SCVs of each other. This is a very close game, and neither player taking a big lead as of yet. And that means that it's going to come a lot down to who can get the third bases down, who can secure those expansions moving forward, who gets the upgrade leads, and also who just gets the better positioning. As in game 1, GoOdy is going for the additional factories into a mech style play, and that's very expected out of GoOdy. He is the Panzer General, he loves his tanks, and he loves his turtling. Meanwhile, kauP, he is just adding in more factories of his own, so he is also going to be utilizing a mech heavy strategy in game 2. Mixing it up, showing diversity in his build orders, and now it's really up to GoOdy to show that this is his comfort zone, and that he's able to continue on this game and win this game. He's got to do that if he wants to advance forward or have a chance of advancing into the winner's bracket. And being a group stage with double elimination, it means that if kauP wins this, he goes through to the second round game, which if he wins, he gets immediately into the live finals. Whereas the loser has to battle it through a loser's game and then a decider's game. 2 series to make their way in. The medevac being spotted by the barracks that is pretty much doing the only job he can in a mech strategy. But he does his job well. The Viking being repositioned to scare away any form of drops coming through. GoOdy keeping Vikings around, keeping those missile turrets around. But it's the front that's going to be a bit more of a golden opportunity for kauP if he wants to go for it. But again, GoOdy just being very diligent with his information, brings the Banshee over, and now all of his Hellions down. A massive win right now for GoOdy. Picking off all of those Hellions is a massive lead for him, and he's going on the offensive. His blue flame upgrade is ahead. All he's having to contend with at the moment is a drop into his natural that hasn't been able to achieve that much damage. Worker kills, only 8 in total this game so far, whereas GoOdy preparing to go on the offensive. A couple of tanks for kauP, gonna aid in defending against this, but there is a lot of Hellions here, and they can just look to go straight through. GoOdy waiting now. Does see that this army's moved out of position, and if the Hellions were a bit closer, they may have gone to try and run up. But GoOdy waiting for those tanks, waiting for the additional Vikings to come across, and I think he's feeling very confident at the moment in this push working for him. He's got a lot of units, he's up in army supply by a sizable amount, and his tank count is also equal, although not with this army. Pushing in now into the siege tanks of kauP, which does give kauP a bit of an advantage, but the sheer volume of units here for GoOdy proves too much, and a retreat comes down from the blue Terran player. SCVs being forced to pull, and kauP is in a very dangerous spot at the moment. The siege tanks for GoOdy racking up a substantial number of kills, and the resources lost heavily favouring GoOdy, forcing the GG of his opponent, and that means we get our ace game as this goes to game 3.